Hi, I'm Peter Birch. Today we're going to be changing up the rough scale python cage, that's right, and in particular we're going to be doing the basking spot that we've got down on the bottom here, the heat pad. We're going to change it up and do something different, and we're going to explain exactly the reasons why. Now, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for finding me. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification button so we can all continue to join the adventure. For everyone else, let's get stuck down into the rough scale python cage. Now, as everyone knows about the giant rough scale, or my epic cage build that I've done here for my rough scale pythons, it's absolutely a monster of a cage. Huge big rock backgrounds. I made these basking ledges that have got heat cords inside them. So there's two with the heat cords inside them. And down on the ground here, I put a habitat heater, a Zoo Med habitat heater. Now, the reason why is because this cage is quite large. And as you can see, you know, I'm at least 6 foot tall, and with my arm in the air we're getting to about 9 feet, so that's quite huge. And when we go to the width of the cage as well, we're looking at another, well, it's about 8 to 9 feet wide as well, and about 2 foot deep. Now, if you haven't seen that show before, hit up the top here because it's going to be there, the link to the show. But basically what I did for this enclosure is very simple. Now, I'm working with a particular species that there's not a lot of real information known about them in the wild. So in captivity, we sort of know a fair bit about their breeding habits and stuff like that based on caging. So when we look at the typical tub systems, cage systems, not these giant, naturalistic, beautiful, magnificent cages, I must say. So what I did is I put those heating rocks in to put them in the basking area so they could be easily seen. Nice big vines, plenty of cool stuff that replicates their wild environment basically. And down on the ground here, you know, I filled it up with leaf litter so these guys could get down amongst it and do a bit of ambush hunting and stuff like that. Now, that's all great for summer and spring and autumn and all the rest of it. But getting down into winter, I definitely started to see a different side to these animals. They typically weren't basking as much on these ledges up the top. So we had to add in this habitat heater down the bottom here. Now, the habitat heaters in the US and the UK and Europe and all over the world basically are used for tortoises and monitors. They're a very hard-wearing piece of equipment. They can take a bit of brutality. I've also seen them being used for pythons at places like Tom Crutchfield in his outdoor enclosures, so therefore I sort of stole a bit of everyone's ideas and chucked it into a cage here in Australia and thought I'll give it a go. Now, so what we did is we hooked up the heat pad to basically there's a, behind the plant down the back here, there's a power point down there. That power point is also connected to these guys because there's power points behind both of these rock ledges that are in here that are heated. And they're both connected to this thermostat up here, the Inkbird thermostat, that's right. So the Inkbird thermostat has proven to be a pretty reliable piece of equipment. What also makes it pretty cool, I guess, is the fact that it's Wi-Fi connectable. You know, you can put on your temperature zones, the heating. They also do heating and cooling, so if it overheats, then you can put a cooling device on it. It can be just a fan, or it can actually be a refrigeration sort of typical sort of thing that kicks in and cools down the area. With a fan, you can have an extraction fan, or actually a fan blowing air in or sucking air out, so the extraction or blowing in. So a bit of a bonus there, but also it gives you alerts to your phone to let you know that the temperatures have exceeded or they're a bit under, so you'll know exactly what's going on. And you know, my house is a bit of a distance away from where I keep my animals, but it doesn't matter where I am in the world. If the temperature exceeds, I'll get an alert on my phone, and then I can actually take precautionary measures. I can either head home or ring someone who is home to go and check out and see exactly what's been going on. So that's the big advantage I find for the Inkbird. That's the Inkbird 308, very effective sort of piece of equipment. Now, it's regulating both of these hot rocks and the heat pad down the bottom there. Now the habitat heater, the Zoo Med habitat heater by itself will sit at about 45 degrees. So 45 degrees unrestricted. It's now running through the thermostat, and we've got that restricted to about 40 degrees. Now the reason why 40 degrees Typically with reptiles, high temperatures can cause problems, but when you have such a huge enclosure, the animals can easily move away from the heating device. And that's been the biggest problem, I guess, for everyone else, is having small cages, heating devices on there. Animals can't escape those small cages and they basically get cooked, they expire, which is a very sad thing. Luckily enough, that's not going to happen, and I've had thermostats overheat before and it's cost me dearly, not only monetary wise, but actually mentally wise too, because losing animals due to a thermostat failure is absolutely devastating, and I'm not going to see that ever happen again. Not with these Inkbirds 308, because they're going to give me an alert every single time something goes wrong, whether it be too hot, too cold, or anything in between. Anyway, so what we're doing today is very basic. So these snakes aren't out basking, which typically they've been doing, sitting up and down all over the places, doing all sorts of cool things. So what are they doing exactly? These guys are actually heading down to the forest floor. That's right, the forest floor here, and they're getting underneath the habitat heater. Now, I've allowed for that by lifting it up so they could get underneath. But are they getting underneath the habitat heater because that's the temperature they prefer? Or are they getting underneath there because they feel more comfortable in that sort of crevice sort of mentality? Because these guys are known to live amongst the escarpments and the trees around the escarpments. So with very little information available, I've got to go out on the whim here and think, these guys will occasionally sit on top of the heat pad here, but most often they sort of get underneath. Now, I think the reason why they're getting underneath is because they feel comfortable. It's that comfort zone, the tactile sort of capability of the animal to be able to touch the top, the bottom, and a side all at once. And it makes them feel very comfortable. They're not exposed sitting out in the open, which I'm expecting them to do, to sit up on top of these rock ledges. And even on top here, they're out in the open exposed to, a predator sort of scenario. We are dealing with captive bred animals in a captive bred environment, but we also got to remember that these guys have some very, very ancient instincts that we've got to really hone in on. And how do we hone in on our animals' instincts is we've got to watch these animals, we've got to try and learn from these animals, and we've got to really acknowledge that they know best and that we're just a visitor in their life. And maybe I'm getting too holistic here, but basically we need to watch the animals more often, and therefore we can actually learn more from the animals and see exactly what they need. That's it in a nutshell, basically. So what are they doing exactly? Well, this is what they're doing. Check this. That's right, so that's exactly what they're doing. They're getting underneath there, and there's a big pile of snakes under there. Now, like I said, I reckon it's because they feel comfortable. They feel comfortable in there, and that's what they're doing. So I've come up with this scenario, and I'm really lucky. I've got Miko, my brother, here today, and he's going to smack out a new box, basically a new heat box. Now, the whole idea is very similar to what's already going on here. So it's low to the ground. It's a ledge, and how we're going to turn it into a hide box, which we can utilize all of the abilities of the Zoom Air habitat heater. Well, basically, here we go. We're going to build ourselves a hide box, like a letterbox, where the whole idea is the animal can get underneath and on top, but also feel confined enough to feel comfortable. So, the idea Miko and I came up with, and we discussed this, is that, exactly that. We need to have it in a way that the heat pad is almost in the middle of the hot box, not on the floor, not on the roof, so the animals can use both sides, the top and the bottom of the hot box. So I've got Miko out, and he's out there like a madman building this thing, because he is the gifted carpenter monster from hell. And when it comes down to quality for detail, I mean, everything around me, basically all my crazy sort of thoughts, he puts them and makes them into something, and that's a good thing and a scary thing all at once. So he's built me this contraption right here, and this is it. And it's got some weight to it. So basically, here it is. Doesn't look like much, right? It's got a lid, all the crazy stuff. So what I need to do is I need to move that big pile of rough scale pythons. Not many people can say that. Big pile of rough scale pythons out from underneath the heat pad. We need to take that habitat heater out and we need to put it into this. Put this back in, plug it all back in, get it all set up, and then put the snakes back in and then let them do their thing and see exactly where this goes. So let's get down to it. Righto, so now the box is in and I've got, I guess the scariest part of all is the one-handed handling of rough scale pythons. And they're kind of excited to get back in there, which is good on them. So I guess it's only going to be a little bit of time for these guys, these beautiful guys, will calm down and find a spot that they feel comfortable. In. And yeah, they're straight in the back corner there trying to climb, as you can see. And there's going to be a little bit of time until they chill out and hopefully enjoy the new hide box, the multi-level hide box. So now they can sit down below like they used to and feel nice and comfortable. They can now sit on top of the heat pad and feel comfortable. And more importantly, you know, we've got a hinge on there so we can get in there and inspect it and see what's going on, make sure everything's fine. And they can also sit on top of that again, on top of the outside of the box. They feel comfortable. So there's going to be a little bit of temperature, a little bit of heat in those boxes right there. And yeah, they're just going to work it out and find out what they feel comfortable with. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show and I hope you found it very informational based awesomeness. I hope you find it was pretty cool. If you did, guys, make sure you give us a like. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Until next time, I guess I'll just be sitting here like I always do, watching and staring and wondering what these beautiful creatures are up to next. Thanks for watching Critter Cam.